Prasenjeet Dhage, first of all, I would like to say thank you. You had given your time for us to discuss on a serious issue and about your book. So, without wasting much of our time, I would like to ask you what inspired you to write this book. Just tell us about this book.
First of all, Yuti, I would like to say thank you very much for having me here. Now, coming to your question, what inspired me for writing this book is, well, in 2015, an Indore-based lawyer filed a petition and in the High Court, and the question was whether pornography should be banned or not. So, the court ruled in favor of pornography. They said that if we ban pornography, then it will be a direct infringement of the right, that is Article 19. So and at that time we used to have debates in our law college, and ironically at that point of time I had said that since it's a personal liberty, and if a person is watching porn in the four walls of his house, then who the hell is anybody else to stop him? So this was my view at that point of time. Of course it was like from an academic point of view, but then fast forward to 2020, when I studied subjects like criminology and law and women, I realized that I read certain articles wherein it said that the consumption of porn increased by more than 90% during the COVID-19 pandemic. And some of the pornographic material that was being circulated and being watched and was in high demand during the coronavirus pandemic was child pornography. So it was a very much of a shocker to me. And since criminology and law and women have been my favorite subjects, so I started to look at that coronavirus pandemic and the increase of pornography from that point of view. And once I started reading more about it, it became like a rabbit hole, and it took me down very, very, very deep. And through that I explored like how sexuality and crime are intertwined, and there is not a lot of material available online or even in books, libraries, or you go anywhere, there is not much material available on that. You have to read many articles on if you want to understand crime and sexuality, and then connect them in a manner, and it's a very tedious process. So for that reason I wanted to compile all of those documents and put it in a book so that it makes sense to the reader, that what dopamine, a neurotransmitter, what role this plays in pornography, and how crime and sexuality are intertwined, and what effect it has on the society as a whole.
डोपामिन ट्रॅप असं या पुस्तकाचं नाव आहे, आणि कोविडच्या वेळेला पॉर्नोग्राफी कन्झम्पशनमध्ये झपाट्यानं वाढली होती संख्या, आणि ही गोष्ट कुठेतरी प्रेसेंजीतला खटकली, अस्वस्थ करून गेली, आणि त्यांनी या विषयाचं गहन अभ्यास केला, त्याच्या मुळाशी जाण्याचा प्रयत्न केला असं प्रेसेंजीतने आपल्याला सांगितलेलं आहे. अजून आपण त्याला काही प्रश्न विचारणार आहोत. So while doing this, what challenges you had to face, because it is such a topic which usually people don't speak.
Yeah.
It is a private, as you said before, that it is a private thing for certain people. So how difficult it was for you to grab or reach to the information to put it in a book?
Definitely, I think it took me almost 1.5 years to compile all the information in my book, because as I said earlier that this idea first came to me, it dawned to me during the coronavirus pandemic. At that time we were not allowed to go outside of the house, so everything was through Skype or video call or on the phone call, and people were not very open to discuss this idea, because, and it's not their fault, because these topics like sex, pornography and sexuality are very taboo, not only in India but all across the world. And that is one of the reason why there was so much increase in pornography during the coronavirus pandemic. So definitely it was very challenging, but yeah, I could interview people thanks to technology.
While doing this, you said that child pornography was on a peak.
Yeah.
So how disturbing it was for you to face it and to write it down in a book form?
Yeah, definitely. See, pedophilia is a crime under IPC, and in any other country also, they don't entertain pedophiles. So basically, before I touch upon that topic, I would like to just briefly say like what role dopamine plays, what role pornography plays, and how those are intertwined with crime against women, with crime against children, sexual crime against children. So basically, dopamine, you can say, is a chemical in our brain. In easy words, you can say it's a feel-good hormone in your body. So every time you do a task that makes you feel good, that hormone, that chemical gets released in your brain, and the receptors take in that chemical, and it makes you feel good. It makes you a bit euphoric. For example, I don't know about you, but for me, I after every lunch and dinner, I like having a bowl of ice cream. So ice cream will give me dopamine. A very good bowl of ice cream, if it has chocolate syrup, if it has some nuts, it will give me more dopamine. Now likewise, compare this with pornography. If you're watching a porn video, then it will give you some amount of dopamine. But gradually, a person will need more extreme types of, more brutal types of pornographic content so that he gets the same amount of dopamine hit. Why is this happening? Is because with every dopamine hit, the receptors are getting burnt. So the same amount of dopamine is not giving him that high which used to give him before. So because the receptors are burnt, because of so much dopamine is getting released, he needs more dopamine to get that high. And that is making his whole dopamine system short circuit. And because of that, people are watching more brutal and brutal pornographic videos, and through that they are going into child pornography. And research has shown this.
Prasenjeet, I would like to know how the readers reacted to your topic and your book. Were they okay with it?
Fortunately, yes, most of the readers were very okay with it. But there are 5 to 10% people like who always want to criticize or something. But constructive criticism is always welcomed. But the other readers, they were very fine with it. In fact, they appreciated that I have written a book about such a sensitive topic that nobody talks about. And many of my law college professors and even teachers from my school said that they would be willing to give this book to their students.
खूप चांगली गोष्ट ऐकायला मिळाली की आपल्या विद्यार्थ्यांना सुद्धा या पुस्तकात असलेली माहिती आणि प्रसेनजीतने केलेले जे रिसर्च काम आहे ते विद्यार्थ्यांपर्यंत पोहोचवणं गरजेचं आहे असं शिक्षकांना वाटलं. हीच या पुस्तकाची एक जमेची बाजू आहे आणि एक प्लस पॉइंट आहे. जाणून घेऊया की ह्या मॉडर्न जनरेशनमध्ये असे विषय अजूनही घडतात आणि एन्जॉय करण्याची वेगवेगळी जेव्हा साधनं असतात तेव्हा एक कुठेतरी लपून अशा गोष्टी केल्या जातात. ह्या गोष्टी आणि टेक्नॉलॉजी याच्यामध्ये आता जर ह्या गोष्टी एकत्र आल्या तर त्याचे दुष्परिणाम होतील का किंवा काहीतरी त्याच्यातून चांगलं येईल हे आपण जाणून घेऊया. I would like to know what will happen if the technology which is accessible to everybody now, even a child can use a mobile phone now. So how do you see the situation in coming years?
Okay, I always understand the future better when I study the past. Because I like one quote. It says that history is repeated first as a tragedy, then as a farce. So if we go back in history, we can see that time to time men have been addicted or have been indulged in different things, and things that are illegal now were legal back then in history. So for example, stay with me, I will tell you. When Columbus came to America, he discovered red Indians and he discovered tobacco. Fast forward after that, in the 19th and the 20th century, everybody is smoking cigarettes like anything. And I've written about this even in my book, that back then in 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, doctors were promoting cigarettes. There were ads of cigarette brands like Lucky Strikes back then. They used to put on their ads that so and so physicians, 20,000 physicians like Lucky Strikes, a brand of cigarettes. They say it is toasted and hence less harmful for your lungs and whatever, doesn't give you cancer. But that doesn't mean even if those things were moral at that point of time, or the companies were endeavoring to make those things moral, doesn't mean that actually those things are good for you. And we can see that towards the end of 1960s, 1970s, people are starting to have cancers. Cancer rates are like going through the roof everywhere. That is when people realize that okay, maybe smoking is bad for us. Now, one more point. In 1945, 1940s to 1945, drugs like crystal meth, cocaine, these drugs were widely used in the World War. They were legal because people used to believe that these drugs make them alert and focused on their task at hand, especially in Nazi Germany. Even Hitler himself, the Führer of the Third Reich, he used to consume drugs. And his own personal doctor, Theodor Morell, he has written in his diary that he used to give his patient Adolf Hitler from time to time injections of various psychotropic drugs that are illegal now. And it could be and some medical historians have even said that it could be that when Hitler committed suicide in 1945 in his bunker, it could be that he was suffering from withdrawal symptoms of those drugs because he was not having access to those drugs. So what the point I'm trying to make over here is that those drugs at that time were legal and were used widely by everybody, but they are illegal now. But that doesn't mean that the drugs were very good for the people who were using them at that point of time. So the point I'm trying to make now is that the pornographic content, which is unregulated, and many research says that kids as young as 11 to 13 years of age are having access to porn, and they are learning about sex through porn, which is so wrong.
To continue with the same point, the education system which we are following now and the subject of sex education.
Yes.
What you would like to tell about this? You think that we are lacking behind with the subject, and because of this we are destroying the future which is going to be the part of society in a weird manner or in a...
Definitely, if I think if I was an enemy of India, like I'm just saying, playing as a devil's advocate, I love my country, but playing as a devil's advocate, then I would very well say that I would very well put this virus into the society that yes, everybody needs to watch porn and get indulged in it, because no man ever watches porn and then goes out and achieves something in his life, because his whole dopamine system is short circuited. That is the whole point of pornographic material, and the powers that be have somehow infiltrated into in India, and not only India, all over the world. But still in India we are seeing that because of the restriction on the distribution of pornographic material, there is not much of an explosion of porn in India as compared to United States and other European countries. And coming back to your point, whether sex education for students and pubescent children is necessary, definitely I feel it is necessary.
Dopamine Trap हे पुस्तक त्यांनी लिहिलेलं आहे, आणि या पुस्तकामध्ये काय काय आहे त्याची सविस्तर माहिती त्यांनी आपल्याला दिलेली आहे. पण नेमकं या पुस्तकामध्ये अजून काय काय आहे ते जाणून घेण्यासाठी तुम्हाला हे पुस्तक वाचावं लागेल, आणि हे पुस्तक ॲमेझॉनवरती अवेलेबल आहे. नक्कीच वाचा आणि तुमच्या प्रतिक्रिया आम्हाला कळवा. पुढचा आपण प्रश्न विचारूया. प्रसेनजीतने हे पुस्तक जरी लिहिलं असलं तरी हे आधुनिक जग आहे जिकडे एआयच्या माध्यमातून बऱ्याचशा गोष्टी करता येतात ज्या आपण कधी विचार पण केलेला नसेल. अशा परिस्थितीमध्ये अशा यंत्रणेचा वापर करून पॉर्नोग्राफीवरती काय परिणाम होतील त्याचा त्याचे वाईट परिणाम आमच्यासमोर येणार आहेत का, ह्या गोष्टीचा भविष्य कसं असणार, ह्या गोष्टी आता आपण जाणून घेऊया. Prasenjeet, how do you see the pornography industry or the psychology of people when we have access to modern technology like AI? So what would you like to tell about the combination of technology and pornography?
Okay, so see, basically the research is very clear on pornography and technology. If we look at pornography and sex, research has said that pornography has no correlation to sex, but actually whatever is shown in pornography is sexual activity. This question naturally comes to the mind, so we'll just try to understand it on a deeper level, and then we'll understand how technology is going to go with pornography. So basically, when does an individual watch porn? When he's isolated, when he doesn't have anything to do, that is when he watches. So porn is not for a person to satisfy his sexual needs. It is primarily because he has some untapped emotions, or he has some anxiety, or he has something in his mind that he's not able to get out, or is not able to regulate. So he tries to suppress those emotions and watches pornography, because as I said earlier, it gives him that dopamine hit. It makes him happy. So why not? Now, talking about technology, back when I had written this book, that time we didn't have AI. Artificial intelligence has come now, and we can see that how even in the among the legal fraternities become very common. Even across all the sectors, everybody is using AI in some way or the other. So I think it's when I look at the future, I see only darkness, because AI and pornography is a very dangerous combination. And I think it's further going to ruin the mindset, and further going to cause more psychological damage to the society as a whole. And the biggest issue is that nobody is talking about that. Now there is something new type of pornographic material is come. It's called OnlyFans. So in which the viewer can have a relationship with the porn star. So this social media and pornography especially is isolating the individual from the society, and that is giving rise to more mental health issues. So basically we have seen psychological aspect of pornography. We have seen how it affects the society. Now also how it affects crime, how people commit crime. Now we'll look at the spiritual aspect of pornography, because if we see in pornography, the element of lust is involved, and I feel that the modern society is progressing towards more and more into hedonism, which is basically worshipping of pleasure, seeking pleasures like lust, hunger, and these kind of things, as opposed to justice, love, and beauty. So we can go as far as Gautam Buddha and even Bhagavad Gita, which tells us, like Gautam Buddha has written in his Buddha and Dhamma, that if a tree is set on fire, how can the birds congregate therein? So basically what he's trying to say is that man has become a victim of all his pleasures. Pleasures are driving him. Man is not driving the pleasures and his life. So he's saying that you need to get your pleasures and all your you need to regulate your behavior in a way that you are in control of all your actions and you are in control of all your pleasures. Or if that doesn't happen, then you will be a victim of your pleasures, and then it will lead to more perverse things and you committing crimes and having psychological problems.